their studies and get master's degrees in the wrong things, and they're still unemployable because they still don't have what the market needs. So I think it's about how do you then transition the qualification that you have.
If you find a problem, you will find a job.
Absolutely.
Right? So find a problem, you solve.
That's a beautiful one. I think we can close on this one. I think enough said, right? Wonderful.
The Blue Table Talk. Tune in and witness people helping other people excel by being a part of thrilling conversations about career. Get ready to learn and be inspired. Have only positive expectations because the Blue Table Talk is all about hope.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Global eTalent podcast. This is our very first podcast, and this is the Blue Table Talk. I am your host, Deboho, and I'm here with my co-host,
Tula Mulepo.
So this is the podcast where we'll be talking all things career, corporate, you name it, we'll be talking about it. To start off, I'd like to introduce our guest. Please introduce yourself, what you do, and who you are.
So I'm Zanele Ajusi. I'm the owner and founder of a company called Professional Ambitions, which is within the HR space, specifically focusing on recruitment. I've been within this space from 2012, really passionate about it, and here just to share my experience, my knowledge, and also learn from everyone around the table. Thank you.
Yeah, my name is Akwesi Obineje. So I'm the head of audit in Absa Bank. I'm also an academic with a vested interest in futures of work as a discipline. I am an entrepreneur startup. Something along those lines. Something along those lines. And so that is what I wake up to do every day. So I'm happy to be here. I'm happy to be part of this great team of people to have a dialogue. Thank you.
Thank you so much for joining us. Thank you so much for joining us. So as the very first topic, we'll be unlocking the career path in 2023. So to start off, I'd like to ask you, in terms of personal branding, how important is it to showcase your skills, expertise, and experience for you to stand out in the job market?
I think it's pretty critical for you to showcase your capabilities, but I think where the difference comes is it's about how you're doing it. With living in South Africa, considering that we have such a high unemployment rate, there's quite a number of people who want to stand out and showcase themselves. I think what becomes very critical is that you network, and that could be anywhere. How do you network yourself and showcase yourself to people that actually know you, that can experience you, that can refer you to opportunities that are out there? You obviously have different platforms such as LinkedIn where you can put up your profile, build your profile, showcase your skills, your talents. So that's really one big platform, but there's also social media, various other social media platforms. But I think it's very critical that you build your network and your network experience you as someone that is reliable, someone that's competent, someone that they can refer to opportunities when they become available. So that's just my take. Jose?
Yeah, just to add on to what Danele just said, I'm an employer, so I employ people. And one of the things you always hear when people discuss skills is they mention what they've studied. I have a degree in accounting, I've got a degree in... that is not a good entry point into marketing who you are. So the world is moved from the concept of a CV and become a competency-based workforce, right? So if you want to showcase your skills, you need to be able to demonstrate what capabilities you possess, what competencies you do have, and why the company that you are looking up to hire you should hire you. And if you dwell on the CV, like I did my intro, I've got PhD in this, I've got masters in that, it doesn't really help the conversation. What did the qualification give you that I want? And if you're able to position and put yourself in that narrative and sell your CV in that manner, you will be putting yourself in a very advantageous position to get noticed. It's about visibility, right? You don't get visible with a qualification, you get visible with the output of the qualification. And so marketing in that arena becomes very important.
Of course, I really love that because I think that's such a brilliant thing to bring up. But I think just to bring it back a bit in terms of people that are just starting their careers, how would you advise them? Because of course, again, they would go back and say, but I don't have competencies that I can actually showcase myself. What would you recommend that they do in their CVs to obviously also still stand out? even with the little experience that one can speak about.
Yeah. No, thanks for that brilliant question. So most employers understand that you just got out of varsity. Right? Most employers do know that you don't have any extensive work experience. But most employers will consider what exposures you got outside of the normal work routine. So even if you're a sports captain, you don't just put out a sports captain. Say, I have leadership skills because you were leading. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
If you were a choir leader, you would put a team player. You know, those are the things that need to come out on your CV. So everybody has a work experience. It's just a matter of how you showcase that experience on your CV. Like I said before, don't focus too much on the type of activity. It's what the activity gave you. And that's what we're looking at, the skills.
That comes out of that,
yeah, so writing a CV becomes quite core, and it's a skill that you need to master. And also when you write your CV for every job, you have to adapt your CV differently. So I don't have one CV.
For sure.
I've got one CV that says Absa Bank application, a mining application. Because what competencies and skills I need to put on my CV for a bank is not the same. So I always say you need to have a bucket list, and per application or per job prospect that you want to get yourself into, you go into that database and says, what does the job need?
Yes.
In my database or in my basket, what skills or competencies do I possess? And which ones do I pull out for the job? So you don't have to write a 4-page CV. If you write more than 2 pages, you've got a problem. Keep it short, succinct, and very enticing.
Yeah.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Amazing. And Zanetta, from your perspective as well?
No, absolutely. I think to his point, you know, as you go through your schooling career, there are many opportunities for you to actually start building your CV. And how do you take those skills that you actually acquire from whether it's high school and university and all the other activities? Because remember, you want to be a well-rounded person. It is not just a matter of going to university, studying the theory that you're studying and getting a degree. It's about what are the other skills that are required, you know, within at any working environment, whether you work in a corporate, whether you work for an SMME, or whether you want to become self-employed. You need to be interpersonal, your people skills. How do you engage with people? And there's so many opportunities where you can actually develop that. And that's where you actually showcase it, whether it's physically on your CV or whether you are on social media. How do you showcase your competencies and your capabilities? Because not all jobs are equal. And not all jobs are specifically looking for technical competencies. You know, in other careers, what is important is your ability to actually engage with people, lead people, you know, and drive people to soft skills, drive them to particular outcomes. So I think when you are building and you are showcasing your competence, it's the broad spectrum. You know, what are your soft skills and what are your technical skills, and how and you know, sometimes what takes the lead. You can find in one job, they focus more on the technical skills. In another job, they actually have a need for those soft skills. And how do you showcase that through your various CVs that you would format so that you can actually stand out and showcase yourself? So I think it's about being broad. It's about building competencies all around and not necessarily sometimes it purely being technical, albeit your technical skills are important.
Lovely.
I would like to ask you, what do you think the challenges are in showcasing your talents in the job market? So what are the challenges that they might face?
I think it's everyone is, when you look at the amount of people that are obviously on the job market that are looking for career opportunities, whether they experience it or not, it's quite a big pool in South Africa. So it's not a challenge that necessarily is specific only to yourself. It's a challenge that everyone showcases, everyone is experiencing, right? So I think the biggest challenge is where people believe that they can only gain work experience or skills by climbing a particular corporate ladder and be with a big brand.
And it's a corporate ladder, right? That everybody's so focused on.
Yes, you know, there are only a few big companies that everyone is looking to work at. I think that's the challenge. The challenge is that people are not open to opportunities within South Africa as a whole. And also looking at any opportunity to build your career, whether you're working for someone who's an entrepreneur who runs their own business, an SMME, a medium-sized business. I think that's the challenge. The challenge is every single person or majority, it's a generalization, but people only want to work for big brands. And that creates a challenge where I say, look at the opportunities that gets afforded to you and to make that build you and build your skills, your competencies, and build your CV. So I think that's really how I would like to respond to that. The challenge is people only look towards big corporates instead of looking at all opportunities that are available and looking to grow and develop and not being necessarily attached to a brand. you will eventually get there. If you're fantastic and you're great at what you do and you have great capabilities all around, you will get to work at any big brand, should that be your wish, or you can build your own business.
I love that, because when I reflect back, that's exactly where I started, SMME, right? So that's how I grew my career, and I think a lot of times you find that the reason why we're saying there's not enough opportunities is because we really are all just aiming or shooting for these big corporates, these blue chip, corporates, and we're not really considering the SMMEs where you actually get the biggest exposure. As we were saying earlier, that in a big company, most of the time is that you'd be literally limited, and you're not going to be exposed to much that you need to know. So I think it's a thing.
But it's quite an important point. But I think just to add, it's a volumes game, right? So I recall when I got out of varsity, I had about 3 job offers. Unilever, KPMG, all these companies were hunting you. At the point you were even contacted through the faculty. The faculty will take the list of potential grads and give you provisional subject to finishing your degree. That option is no longer there, right? That option is gone because it became a volumes game. We have people coming from varsity to occupy jobs that probably are already saturated. And I think the question is, where do they look up to, right? And the idea of people wanting to start a job, like you said, in a blue chip company, it needs to be demystified. You can start partnering up with a small firm, like we've already alluded to, and you would learn equally, if not at a faster pace than what you get from a big blue chip, because we become a number in an ocean. Another important point I wanted to highlight or bring up is the issue around the skills mismatch, right? So one of the big pitfalls we experience in the corporate world is what the world of work needs versus what the universities are giving us. If I talk about the 1980s, it was a manufacturing intense economy. So everybody was being trained to become an engineer or a scientist or in the last 15, 20 years, it's become a services industry. Right. And for me, one of the big challenges that I sit or I grapple with when it comes to the mismatch between academia and corporate. So we're churning all these young people into the job market that don't have the right set of skills that the job market needs. And that is one of the biggest challenges they'll get. So they're thinking, I've finished my degree, but there's no job.
Out to get a job.
Did you study the right thing to start with, right? So there has to be, I'll call it a PPP, private-public partnership, institutions versus corporate, to see what are we really looking for, and how do the institutions revamp the curriculum to align with the needs of the market. And that for me is quite a big gap. And so a person can get into a job market will be frustrated because they have what they think is needed to get work.
Or what was relevant 3 years ago, right?
But is it still relevant? So that's one of the biggest challenges. Another gap, we used to hire in AFSA many years ago when we started hiring. We needed to find people with a diploma to join the graduate program, right? And we were even struggling because it was a few people that had it. As the years went by, we started looking for first degree holders. And now to get into a grad program, you need a master's degree, right? So when you get in there, you need to know what is the apex that I need to enter the job market. Am I coming in at the bottom? Then you're going to struggle. So am I really equipped, qualification-wise, right? Am I equipped to even start competing in that job market? Otherwise, you're going to get frustrated. I think so I'm just adding on to what my colleagues have said.
And I love that point when you mentioned the mismatch between the educational system as well as the world of work. I think there's such a misalignment in that we're still seeing so many universities and so many any educational systems, institutions. In fact, they all are still training people on qualifications that are absolutely not relevant.
But I think it's also, we do have a big cohort of individuals that have these qualifications. What then? What then? What do you do? You have to understand that, what can you take from what you have studied and build it into competencies that become useful in the different world or different economy or different market. So I think if you find yourself in that situation, it's okay, how do I then transition the degree or build onto what I already have? Because you also get a problem that, a lot of people again, a generalization. People would go on and further their studies and get master's degrees in the wrong things, and they're still unemployable because they still don't have what the market needs. So I think it's about how do you then transition the qualification that you have and look at what opportunities it can create for you. And if it's something that you're passionate about, you're bound to be successful. You're bound to be successful because you're going to put in the work and the effort that will take you to where you want to be. So yes, the qualification is important, but also what you do with that particular qualification becomes even vital.
Sorry, Akwasi, to cut you. I love that point that you just mentioned, but I want to know, do you think, because I think a lot of times you'll find that people still believe out there that the more qualifications that you have, the more successful you'll be. I mean, one of our clients asked us to, when we were recruiting for this particular role that they were looking for, I actually saw a candidate that had master's degree in commercial law that is still earning 5,000 rand. And I think it's so disheartening to see them, when they actually, whatever that they had, preconceived ideas in terms of, if I study this, this far, probably when I enter the market, I'm entering at a very, and it's not happening. So what would you say? How would you advise them to do in that case? Because I think we're just pushing so much to say, get to your masters, but then you get your masters and then you're not getting the job. In fact, most corporates are actually running away from you because they know that the expectation that you have is probably going to be higher than what they can obviously offer you.
So one, I think for certain industries, getting that deep technical skills is vitally important. Obviously, such as, if you studied law, law, medicine, engineering, those deep technical skills really become important. Secondly, I think it's, it's the prerogative of whoever comes across such a qualification to actually pick up the phone and advise this individual. Because perhaps they lost, perhaps they have no one to mentor them around. How do they enter? One, if they actually want to study law. Two, what is it that you're passionate about, and how do you then pursue that career with a law degree? Because I think the beauty about a law degree is that you can really plug into so many sectors, right? Thirdly, I think, in certain industries, you can be qualified, but not have the necessary the experience and the competence to function at a level that you're required to, and you will start at a certain level. Not everyone is going to have a master's degree and end up being the head of the department. There's a journey that you have to go through. What if a qualification does? It gives you technical competencies. You still have to start somewhere and be trained up, and also be shown how to actually execute this work that you're coming into in order for you to build an actual base for yourself. So I think those are the 3 points that I want to make. But also, I think it's vital that, the opportunities, having a certain level of qualification does not grant you or guarantee you an opportunity. It's what you do with it. And it's important that those students that have obviously gone that far reach out to mentors that come in the form of lecturers, at universities, professionals that are in these particular professional bodies of the particular sector to say, how do I go about navigating what I have studied? What are my passions? Is this something that I want to do, or do I want to pursue something else? And you get people around you, a network or community to guide you and help you. And it does not only has to be someone that you physically know. You can go online and look at the content. There's billions of content. There's content available. And it's about empowering yourself, and it's not becoming a victim to the system. And it's about finding a way to build yourself up. I think that's critical. Reach out to your mentors. Really understand whether this is your passion, but also be very realistic around, you can have a certain qualification and you're just going to start at a certain particular point because you need the training in order for you to actually build the skills outside of theoretical but actual practical skills, right? So I think it's there are many ways around it, but I think the biggest thing is to, one, not be a victim of the environment, number two, empower yourself. Yes, the environment is what it is, but what can you do to help yourself? Reach out to people. I think it's critical that people reach out and say, I do not know. And you don't have to know certain people. Yes, you might be reaching out to people on LinkedIn and no one is responding to you, but someone somewhere down the line will respond to you.
A neighbor.
Absolutely.
No, I think you're right on the money on that one. So it's two things for me, right? The first one is on the sequencing of your qualification, right? So Do I have to study masters? Perhaps you do.
Yeah.
Do I have to study all the way to masters before I get into a job market? Maybe not, right? So you really need to look at the industry you're tapping into and say, I can do a first degree, get into the job market, and then come out and carry out my master's, because those skills are needed. You will need it at some point, but it's the phase at which you do these qualifications. You can't study all the way up to PhD and only enter the job market. Already your peers have already gotten at a lower level, and they've acquired skills, and they're probably more knowledgeable and more marketable than you are. So you really have to think about the timing of when you study what. The studying, I believe, should happen. Maybe I've got a nerdy and a very biased towards qualification. It should happen. You just have to really time it. And some qualifications are not needed. You don't need a master's degree when you're entering a job market. You need it when you're almost hitting a managerial senior. So you do it to complement your growth in your career. You stagger it in that manner. And another important I wanted to bring up is the linearity of your studies. I mean, many a times when I've asked a young person, why are you doing masters in economics? Because I did my first degree in economics. You feel the need to do masters in economics, right? That needs to stop, right? Because the day the need for an economist is gone, all your 18 steps of qualifications have all become obsolete, right? So you need to study vertically and horizontally as well. And before you start that qualification, you need to ask yourself, what am I going to get out of it? And where am I going to use it? If you can't answer that, don't do it. So maybe it's good you do that linear thing, but you need to really interrogate, where am I going for life? And what skills do I need to possess? And which qualification will give me that skill set? If you don't have that answer, don't do it.
Right? And also, when you do get that qualification, understand where you're going to start.
Exactly.
So separate the two. Separate your masters from where the starting point is. I think to manage your own expectation and disappointment that might come.
True.
And I think from what you guys have just said, which I think is so brilliant, takes me back to saying where we're missing it. Is it universities that they're not actually saying what we're saying right here? Is it because they know, or is it because they don't know? Is it because maybe their focus is to bring in numbers, people coming to study, because obviously, it is a business, Where are we missing this? Why is it that we're finding, young people at home without this information? And where, if we were to fix it, where do we begin?
I can tap into. So I've done a little bit of research on my, when I do my futures of work, staggeringly, the South African curriculum is about 25 years behind industry. One is because we have people that are teaching that have never worked, right? Right? They just studied. So all professors that are teaching us in most universities don't know what to teach because they have never worked. They've done research, they've solved industry problems, but they have never been to the ground working. So that is one big disconnect. If you have industry leaders that have really grown academically, that are able to come part-time lecture in universities, the type of insight they bring to the classroom is very different. From having a professor,
pure professor,
you know what I mean, in a classroom teaching. So that is one big disconnect. And also, I did speak about this earlier on about the PPP, public-private partnership with the institutions. It doesn't exist. An ideal expectation is that once you get to a certain level of your qualification, you should have tapped into the world of work already before you come out. And if the partnership did exist, we have a pipeline of students that are doing part-time job during holidays, contracted to certain institutions. So by the time they get the degree, they've already acquired the necessary work experience that they needed to get in there. So all these, I think it's a lot more. I'm going to let Zanel also come in. I don't exhaust the option, take everything from her, but I think those are some of my thoughts on that.
I agree with him 100%. I agree with 100%. And I think it's, to his point, academia, it's the state of our economy and the level of growth that we've experienced and how we've kept up with the global market. And it's our education system. So it is not a problem that will be resolved overnight. I think the triple C partnerships that we've spoken about really will resolve that.
My question right now, to build up on the question that you asked, is where are we missing it? I want to know who needs to change now the narrative. Is it the businesses, or do we ourselves, the graduates, need to make the mindset shift? Because everything that we spoke about here, I went through. I remember after I graduated, my first degree, I went to my lecturer and I was like, I don't know if I want to do my honors because I don't know if this is what I want to do. And he said, the best advice I'm going to give you is travel. But not everyone has the luxury to travel. Because he said to me, you will learn more from the world than you will from a textbook. And when I started my honors degree, I even stopped because I was like, I'm not even sure if this is what I want to do. So now I want to know who now makes the change.
I mean, I think you need to make your mindset, your mindset, as the students, right? Because the information that we're sharing or the advice that we're giving, again, a certain population will probably have the privilege of doing certain things, seeing it, but also there's a wide group of individuals that don't have the opportunities presented through to them. I think once you sit down with yourself and you come to the realization that these are my options, and you make that shift to say, I'm responsible for my life, I want to change my life, and I want to go in this direction, you can do that. You don't have to wait for some big system change, to happen. You are in control of your life. You can change the trajectory of your life and where your life is going. And you can say, you know what? Yes, I've got a degree, but I actually want to start my own business. And you find that you're passionate about it and you find that you do really well. So it just does not have to be in this one concept that I graduate, I get a job in a corporate. No, you have every capability, especially if you are qualified. You've got skills that you've learned in university. How do you take those skills and actually build onto it, right? So I don't want it to be a situation of this person will change and therefore it will change for me. It's about how do I change it for myself? How do I build up opportunities for myself? And how do I look into opportunities that I've probably never considered? There are opportunities available. Perhaps you just have not opened yourself up to those opportunities and creating your own opportunities. Look around you. What are people looking for? What are problems that you need to resolve? And you change your life in that way. But yeah, I think it's very important that it starts with self, and self needs to have that mindset, and you need to change your mindset, you need to have a growth mindset, and you need to build your life. Any country in the world, there are people that are, probably not to the degree in South Africa that people are unemployed, but there are people that are employed, right? And they decide, you know what, I want to change my life and I want to make my life successful on my terms. And that's what I think you need to focus on that.
Amazing.
That's very important point. But just to add on, we have this concept that a workplace is where the change starts. Right? The world is moving into a certain direction. That one key strength or competence that you need now is the ability to adapt. And to reinvent yourself very speedily, right? That competency starts not when you start working. It starts when you're the first year in class. Right? So what the classroom doesn't give you, you need to be very present to know that there's a gap. And you need to fill it yourself. One thing they don't teach you is adaptability at school or adversity, but the world of work needs it. So you ask yourself, as I'm studying, how do I acquire that adaptability skill that is not in the textbook? But if you're waiting to get into the world of work to start learning, you are going to learn at a very slow pace. So you have to reinvent yourself for that change whilst you're in school before you start working. It's quite an important component. The lecturers are not going to change that for you. The government is not going to change that for you. You've been thrown into an ecosystem that is not self-fulfilling. You need to fulfill yourself within that ecosystem, and you have to figure out how you need to do that. There is no solution for every person. You need to really reflect on yourself and see where do I tap into that gap. What is the gap and how do I fix it? And there's always solutions out there. But the first thing is to be able to identify what's the gap. What is the gap?
Interesting.
How then do the graduates or job seekers then avoid falling into the trap of complacency and continue to stay motivated and grow then?
It literally just goes back to what your answer was. Like you have to push yourself to grow and develop every day, so that you can be succinct with the environment that you're in. To say that there's a change, there's a move. No one can do that for you. No one can drive you to want to succeed. It's something that comes internal, and there are things that you have to take responsibility for, and that is fundamentally it.
Yeah.
You know, there's a time where your parents or your loved ones will encourage you, motivate you, but there's a point where you let go of your childish ways and you fend for self. And if once you're a graduate, there is no more, well, this person did not tell me, that person did not tell me. It's just not going to happen. So that's the truth, you know. No one's going to come and motivate you, as we've all heard. You have to do it for yourself.
Yeah. And I'm so moved by that, because I mean, what we're seeing now with AI, it's really shocking. And if you're finding people that are not able to adapt, I mean, it's going to leave so many behind. You know, and you know, those are the things that we're saying. How then can, you know, people adapt to it? What do you need to do to get into that? And I think you did mention as well to say that you need to obviously do a lot of research in terms of what it is that you need to do. But like, I think like you're saying as well, that there's people that are actually not exposed to this. I think it's just a very foreign word when they say AI. What is that? What are they talking about? Because they haven't even seen a laptop. So what does that even look like for them? You know. So what are we saying in terms of that? Because it's here, it's happening, and it's happening at a very fast pace.
Yeah. So maybe AI is not there to. I think there's this notion that machines should take over people's jobs. They don't.
No.
The machines are there to complement what we do.
Yeah.
So if I give you an example, they will take some jobs away, but the human capacity, we only utilize 1%, less than 1% of our brain capacity, because we spend most of our time doing mundane, routine type of work, right? What the machines are doing is, let's say they're forklifting for you in a factory. What does it allow you to do? To sit there and start doing paperwork, to start being innovative, to start stretching your mind, because if the machines are replacing the mundane, routine type of work you do, it pushes you to now go into the innovation mode. So you're not competing with the machines. The machines are pushing you away from doing stuff that you shouldn't be using your brain to do. So you can start fixating on solving problems. Start using your creative mind. Start using your ability to, become more, innovative, strategic, right? Those type of stuff. And so the AI concept, and once people back down that this is taking over my job, it reduces our drive. If we change the thinking that these things are there to augment what I do, and I have to now compete intellectually with what these things are doing, you start stretching your mind in a very different dimension. And you'll be very amazed how much you'll be able to focus on and achieve that you are not probably able to do before. So yeah, it's a bit of both, but they're not going to replace a human being. Think about it. The machine cannot laugh. It can cry. Right? So there are certain qualifications like nursing, social
plumbing,
plumbing.
your artisanal skills.
You need the human touch. There are courses that are very emotionally driven. Machines cannot cry. You don't want to cry, you want to see a therapist. You don't want to go speak to a machine. Right? So there are certain courses that you're still going to need. Those that were of less prominence will now gain prominence, because the machines are going to force people into a different career course that the world will need. I'll give you an example. Sorry, I'm just talking a lot. I'll give you an example. We got into a situation where I was speaking on stage and I was asked this question around, what does the future of work look like in the presence of these machines? And I said, the future of work will look like we're going back to nature, right? Absolutely. We're going to go back to nature at some point. All that we do now is we hide behind our gadgets, and people are going to be so drained of this tech stuff as it evolves that you pay to have a human connection. Right? And when these things start evolving and start clouding how we live our lives, we'll go back to the jungle. If you think about it, the bush camp and retreats have become the big thing now. Why are people doing that? They want to go bond with nature. So this thing is just shifting us to do things differently. They're not replacing us. They're coming and we're reinventing ourselves and we're starting to do things differently. So once you start understanding that trajectory, your whole principle of why should I be worried? Maybe not. Right? You start thinking differently.
I love that. So we'll start a holidaying business. That's literally it, right? Start a business where people actually want to go to. People want to relax. People want to connect to nature. People want to connect to themselves. There's an opportunity there.
There's an opportunity there already. There was a lady that I met at a conference, and she had come from California, somewhere there, to Africa. And she said, I love coming here. I'm like, you go beaches and stuff in US. She said, but those are artificial. So she'll fly just to put her feet in water. In a river or in a lake or in a dam that is unadulterated. Right? So everything that is artificially made, people just want to now get in touch with nature. So she'll literally sit on end and just have a feet to fill water from natural sources. Right? She wants to bond with nature. And she flew all the way to come here. Another restaurant I visited in Cape Town, and they do this African food, I forgot the name. Now I used to go there walking. Now I go there as tourists, I have to book. And I was curious. And they came there because of the African drums. They're tired of listening to music made in abroad. So when they come here, you become a tourist thing. That the people were dancing and doing the Zulu. People want to bond. When I want to listen to music, when I come to first principles. So the machines are going to make us get in touch with nature a lot more. It's one thing that we don't realize. So they're not fully going to replace us. They're going to challenge us. If I can play that way, if I can sum it up.
I love that. I love that. I think that's going to change a lot of minds around.
So we're not going to run out of jobs. We just kind of have to shift things. Wow.
So I called it, one of my presenters called it the shift has happened.
The shift has happened.
Absolutely.
Yeah, no, it's definitely has. It really has happened.
And how does that affect corporate then? Does that mean corporate is going to collapse? White collar businesses, are they going to collapse in that we have to make the shift?
Yeah, so they have to. A corporate is as good as you. If you don't adapt, you die. If the corporates don't adapt, they also die. So yeah, if you see transformation and research and innovation in companies are not huge. Because how do we also change our landscape? The customer preferences in the midst of technology has also changed. You can't be making the same products and services we were doing 10 years ago. Because the advent of technology has changed customer preferences. And you have to align to the changing needs of your customers. So the corporates are equally changing. And if they don't adapt, they also die. Right? So everybody is changing. The whole ecosystem is changing.
It really is.
So
everything is changing. It's key.
It really
It's really
is.
key.
I think I remember when I was still in corporate as well, when this change or this shift happened, I think it really did disrupt, quite a lot, because there's this, idea of what corporate is. And then when those that were empowered to make this change, when they came in with this change, it really shook the whole organization. I think if you guys can remember African technology, when they came in with the new ways of working, and, I think we had bean bags in the office. Suddenly we had pool tables,
PlayStations and all that stuff.
PlayStations, which was such a shock, because that's not the environment that you would associate with corporate, because we all thought corporate is suit and tie, stiffness, and we're doing this. And when that change came, and I mean also even the dress code, they were wearing flip-flops, and and I think we're seeing this more and more. I mean, even with now the hybrid model that we're seeing now, like people are dressed,
we hybrid in. This is a hybrid mode.
So there's a lot, that is happening in terms of this shift that we're talking about. And I think, honestly, and that's the beauty of being human, because you can adapt, right? Absolutely. So I think maybe we should embrace that about us, that we are actually adaptable human beings. We can adapt to this change.
Through the ages.
And it's the first time in the history of the workplace that we have all generations working together. Right? We have the baby boomers. We have the Gen Z, Gen Y. There's a new one coming up. And so this whole shift in terms of how we see the world of work from a hybrid perspective, changing the landscape to suit all generations that are working together in one. It's going to cause conflict. And you're already seeing it.
It is,
Your manager calls you, they want you to be in the office at 8. The child who is 21 just got out of varsity says, but I can do it from home.
Exactly.
Right? So we're having these conflicting narratives. And until that baby boomer phase fizzles out, we are going to have very difficult, challenging times. And the hybrid work from home, remote work concept is very easy to design, but it's very difficult to implement. Because it doesn't just affect one generation, it affects multiple leadership styles and multiple generations within the workforce that need to be. Exactly. If Monoptula asks you to come every day 5 times a day, probably not going to be happy. You want to have some flexible days where
no, definitely it's changing. But as I was saying, we're hearing a lot that, oh my God, this came with COVID. No, it didn't. I remember very well, before 2020, where hybrid was a thing. And I think if I can go back to this project that we're doing, there was this big hype around agility. Yes. And, business units were very strict now in terms of the numbers of people that were in the office. And it was such an interesting thing to see, where managers are panicking that there's the full team is in the office.
Yeah.
Oh my God, it means that we're paying for all these seats. It was such an interesting shift because you could see that as much as they don't want it, but because it speaks to their scorecard, they had to have it, you know?
No, definitely. Definitely.
Yeah,
Another important point. There are certain global phenomena that are also happening now. There's ESG. Which is kind of very prominent. It's forcing organizations to now say, how do I conform to the ESG principle? So now you also have to tweak how you manage your workforce.
Absolutely.
So that ESG component says, if I bring all my workforce to work every day, how much gas are we polluting to the air? So my contribution towards the ESG agenda is to reduce how much traffic are causing a day towards the work. So the issue of hybrid work is not just about a bounce on seat. It's got a bigger environmental, macro. It's a whole lot of system out there that is now shaping how. So the external forces that is now also forcing organizations to really look at how they manage the workforce. So it wasn't a COVID event. It's other drivers that is influencing how the workforce is being shaped now.
And I think we really need to look at how quickly we adapt as South Africans, because I feel like, you know, in South Africa, everything just moves at a different pace. If I think about Japan, you know, when it comes to virtual working, that was a concept that was like born, you know, years ago, and they've adapted so quick and easy. You know, it's like almost like that. It's like it's been there, you know, forever. And I think with us, it's really gonna.
It will take some time. It's a state of our economy, right? It's a state of our economy. Certain organizations can adapt and move, you know, at the rate of the first world countries. But I think when you look at our economy and the type of work that our, you know, population does, it's really a different rate of implementation or adapting to it.
Interesting. Yeah.
Great. I guess the next question is, for the people who have already acquired a certain skill set in a certain industry, how then do they use that to adapt to the new way of doing things? Transitioning.
Yeah, it's continuous development, right? So learning doesn't stop with an old qualification. Right? So
exit varsity.
And exit varsity. So learning is continuous. So you have to always continuously learn. And it doesn't have to be a formal degree that you do to learn. You can learn in different forms. So there is no mention that the old degree is no longer relevant. Have you upskilled it? Have you shaped it? Have you tweaked it? Have you, given it a little bit of an oomph? And only do that if you apply yourself within the context of the environment you work in. Right? If things are shifting, how do I top up that qualification? Do I go do a short course? Right now, you don't need a developer to go to varsity for 8 years. You can do a development course for
free courses available.
So you don't need to go back and do honors or masters. There are short interventions. And I get worried when people spend too much time in the classroom, because by the time you come out, the knowledge is obsolete.
Absolutely.
Right? So when I make it very agile, you do it as quickly as you can. The formal stuff has got its own,
advantages.
But you need to make sure you just do it in an agile format. Quick, sweet, sharp and short. Benefit from it. The next advent comes, you reinvent yourself again. So you have to transition. You have to always move across.
And with that, transition hopefully into something that you're passionate about.
Exactly.
I think that's critical. That's being aware of self and what self is interested in. It becomes so key, so that when you make the next shift, you actually make it in the right direction. So I think for me that's critical.
And my thing though is to say, we're obviously speaking to people that want to obviously embark on this career transitioning, but now what are we saying to, employers? What are we saying to people corporates? What are we saying to businesses out there when we speak about this? Because again, they'll still go back to say, for example, let's say you have, found your passion, is that what you're saying? And this is where you want to transition. Are you accepted? How are they going to accept you? Because they're still stuck on, I need you to have this particular experience in this,
I don't think it's got anything to do with corporate. Corporate is there for particular functions. The business, they produce certain services, outputs, and that's really it. It's not corporate's job to accommodate you. It's not. Go to a place where you can be accommodated. I think the notion of thinking that the corporate environment, they will adapt and move according to what their needs are, their customer base needs are, and therefore what their output's going to be. But the notion that corporate should accommodate you because you found your passion, I think, cut that out. You found your passion, you will follow your passion, you'll do what you need to do, as much as the business will drive and deliver what they are driving and delivering.
Mhm.
I think that's just my answer to
No, that is very true. A career doesn't start in a building, right? So if you've got a degree, you could go straight from varsity into entrepreneurship. You don't have to go work 10 years to get out and start your own thing.
Yeah.
Right? So if your mind is only fixated on getting a job, you have to look around you. Every single problem you struggle with creates an opportunity for you to solve the problem. You don't need to go into corporate to work for 5 years to find the problem around you. That's how innovation starts, right around you. And if you're struggling in there and you're knocking on those corporate doors, you're not getting. That means, and you're looking around, you're not getting. That means you're not thinking right.
Yeah.
There's a lot of stuff just around you that you can. You don't have to start big. Start small. If corporate is pushing you away, find something else to do. And there's a whole lot. There is no type of job that says because I'm wearing a master sleeve, I can't do something small in the garage. That's where innovation starts. The biggest innovators in the world, your Steve Jobs and all those big people in Google, started from garages. Right, and today they're billionaires without the qualifications. So you really have to just drop out. Find your passion, find your calling. And if the four buildings of a company is where that passion gets, developed, so be it. But if not, find something else to do. You cannot be jobless. And you have yourself to blame. I know it's easier said than done, but it's just our thinking needs to change a little bit.
And I guess we're not going to see what we're seeing. Poverty is we're going to change the face of poverty if we have that kind of thinking. Because I think, again, we look at, what's happening. We obviously are just like, oh my goodness, this is happening to us, and what are we going to do? And we're not thinking the right way for us to actually empower ourselves so that, we can make our lives better. I think we're still very stuck in that I need to find a job, And that's why we're hearing, a lot about unemployment. The word itself, it's saying that we're not thinking right. And I guess maybe, again, it's a big conversation to be had to say, is this the only thing that we should be, we should be also looking at the opportunities. There's so many opportunities in South Africa that would, really, really change.
I think for me, one of the biggest things that definitely also needs to change, talking about unemployment, it's this whole negative connotation that comes with certain jobs, where people look down on certain jobs, and therefore sometimes they find themselves unemployed because they assume that they are better than doing that. When you think about it, we have a big shortages of artisans in this country, welders. People are competent, capable of executing those functions, starting their own businesses, becoming millionaires, be able to build comfortable lives for themselves. We don't have the skills in South Africa. We literally don't have the skill. And there's so many people that can actually execute that. Do a 6 months, 12-month course to become a welder, and you are employable the moment you start studying that particular course. Why are people not doing that? So I think we need to also break away from this notion that you look down on certain jobs. That job can earn you more than what a doctor is earning. So I think we need to really, as a community, we need to open up ourselves to opportunities and career opportunities that you can build a life with, because fundamentally that's what you want to do. You want to build a life that you're proud of. So move away from the notion that certain things are not what is deemed a posh job. And look about how do you want to build a life. And again, if you cannot find a job, go do something that the moment you start, you're going to be employable. And while you're doing that, you're building up to whatever skill it is that you want to transition into. So I think that's also critical around this talk around being unemployed. That's why TVET colleges, it's actually such a great opportunity for people, but it's not being seen because everyone thinks they need to become an accountant, they need to become a doctor. Not that you're incapable of becoming those things, very much so, but there are also people that are really very talented naturally that can go into a different route. And those opportunities are available in this country.
So I'm gonna probably just put it in one word: don't find a job, only find a problem.
If
you find a problem, you will find a job. Right? So find a problem, you solve it. Solve
a problem. That's a beautiful one. I think we can close on this one. I think that's it, right? Wonderful. I guess from us is to say thank you so much for coming through. This was so enriching, and I think our viewers are going to absolutely love this. And there's a lot of takeaways from this discussion, and I think such conversations are, we need to have them as more, so that we can actually make this change that we want to see.
Yeah.
So, thank you so much. Thanks a lot for coming.
It was a pleasure for being here. Thank you for inviting us.
Very insightful. And I think it applies to both all generations. In this case, and love that approach. Thank you so much.
It's a pleasure. Thank you
so much.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for tuning in. Please do like this video and share it with everyone that you know, and follow our other social media platforms.